Over the past few years, reports suggest that thousands of healthcare workers have stepped away from the UK system, while some hospitals are struggling with serious staff shortages in key departments. But here's the shocking part. It's not just about people leaving jobs, it's about a system quietly under pressure from every direction at once. What if the real story behind UK hospitals isn't what most people think? Behind the busy emergency rooms and long waiting lists, something deeper is happening. Doctors are moving abroad, nurses are rethinking their future, and patients are searching for faster options outside the system. It's a slow shift, but it's growing every single day. So why is this happening right now? In this video, we uncover the 10 powerful reasons behind this hidden crisis that is changing the future of UK healthcare forever. Number 1. NHS staff burnout crisis. One of the biggest reasons behind the growing pressure in UK hospitals is something that doesn't always make headlines, but is deeply felt on the inside: burnout among healthcare workers. Imagine walking into a hospital where every corridor is busy, every phone is ringing, and every staff member is trying to handle more patients than humanly possible. This has become a daily reality for many NHS workers. Reports and healthcare studies have repeatedly shown that long working hours, emotional strain, and constant understaffing are pushing doctors and nurses to their limits. Many are working double shifts, skipping breaks, and dealing with life-and-death decisions back-to-back without enough recovery time. Over time, this creates a heavy emotional burden that doesn't just affect performance, it affects mental health. What makes this even more serious is the feeling of being stuck in a cycle. When staff leave due to stress, the remaining workers are left with even more pressure, which leads to even more resignations. It becomes a chain reaction that slowly drains energy from the entire system. In simple terms, it's not just tiredness, it's emotional exhaustion, mental fatigue, and compassion burnout. Many healthcare workers still love their profession, but they no longer feel they can survive in the environment it has become. And here's the part most people don't see. This isn't happening overnight. It has been building for years, quietly, inside hospital wards, waiting rooms, and emergency departments across the country. Now, the effects are becoming impossible to ignore. If this topic surprised you, tell us in the comments. Did you expect burnout to be this serious in hospitals? We read every single comment, and your thoughts help shape our next videos. And if you find value in content like this, please consider subscribing. It takes just one click, but it truly supports all the effort we put into making these videos for you. Number 2. Low pay vs. global opportunities. Another major reason behind the growing movement of healthcare professionals leaving the UK system is something very simple, but extremely powerful: money and opportunity. While the NHS is respected worldwide, many doctors, nurses, and medical staff feel that their compensation does not fully reflect the pressure, responsibility, and emotional weight of their work. Now compare this with countries like Australia, Canada, the United States, and parts of the Middle East, where healthcare workers are often offered significantly higher salaries, better benefits, and sometimes even relocation packages. For many professionals, this creates a very difficult decision: stay in a system they know well, or move to a place where their skills are rewarded more generously. But it's not just about salary alone. It's about quality of life. In several countries, healthcare workers report shorter shifts, better staff-to-patient ratios, and more time for personal life. That combination of financial stability and reduced stress becomes extremely attractive, especially for those who have spent years under constant pressure in the UK system. Over time, this creates what experts often call a global talent pool effect. Skilled professionals don't just leave randomly, they are actively recruited. Hospitals and agencies abroad often reach out directly, offering packages that feel hard to refuse. And here's the deeper issue. When experienced staff leave, it doesn't just affect numbers, it affects experience levels inside hospitals. Newer staff are left to handle complex cases without enough senior support, which increases stress even further. So, what looks like a personal career choice on the surface is actually part of a much larger global competition for medical talent. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in this situation, Would you choose higher pay abroad or stay loyal to your country's system? Drop your honest thoughts below. And if you're finding these insights valuable, don't forget to subscribe. It's just one click, but it helps us keep bringing you well-researched stories like this. Number 3. Medical migration. One of the most talked about but often underestimated reasons behind the pressure in UK hospitals is what experts call medical brain drain, a steady flow of trained healthcare professionals leaving the country after building their careers in the NHS. It doesn't happen suddenly. Instead, it builds quietly over years, one resignation at a time, until the impact becomes impossible to ignore. Here's what makes this so significant. The UK invests heavily in training doctors, nurses, and specialists. But once they gain experience, many are recruited by other countries offering better pay, improved working conditions, and more balanced lifestyles. This means the system doesn't just lose workers, it loses highly experienced talent that took years to develop. Countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the Gulf states actively target UK-trained professionals. They know these workers are skilled, English-speaking, and already trained to high standards. So they offer attractive packages, fast-track visas, and smoother career progression. For many professionals, this feels less like leaving a job and more like stepping into a better future. But the real impact shows up inside UK hospitals. When experienced staff leave, the gap isn't just numerical, it's operational. Senior guidance becomes limited, mentorship decreases, and junior staff are left handling complex responsibilities earlier than expected. This increases pressure on those who remain, creating a ripple effect across the entire system. Over time, this cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Fewer experienced staff lead to more pressure, and more pressure leads to more departures. And that is exactly how a system slowly starts to feel stretched, even if the number of patients remains the same. Number 4. Long waiting times in the system. One of the most frustrating and widely discussed issues inside the UK healthcare system is increasing waiting times. For many patients, what should be a simple appointment or procedure can turn into weeks, or even months, of delay. And in healthcare, time is not just convenience. Sometimes, it's the difference between early treatment and a worsening condition. Hospitals are often operating at or beyond full capacity, with emergency rooms packed and routine appointments pushed further down waiting lists. Studies and NHS reports have shown that backlogs in certain treatments and surgeries have grown significantly in recent years, especially after periods of high system strain. This means patients are often left in a difficult position, waiting in uncertainty while their health concerns continue to progress. From the patient's perspective, this creates anxiety and loss of trust. Many people begin searching for faster alternatives, whether through private healthcare options within the UK or even treatment abroad. The emotional toll of waiting to be seen becomes just as heavy as the medical issue itself. But there's another side to this problem that often goes unnoticed. Healthcare professionals themselves feel the pressure of these delays. Doctors want to treat patients quickly, but limited staff, high demand, and resource shortages slow everything down. This creates a sense of frustration on both sides of the system, patients waiting longer, and staff unable to deliver care at the speed they want. Over time, this gap between demand and capacity becomes one of the most visible signs that the system is under strain. And when delays become the norm instead of the exception, people naturally start looking for faster solutions elsewhere. If you are waiting months for a treatment, would you stay patient or look for alternatives outside the system? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one and it helps shape our future videos. And if you're finding these insights valuable, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it means a lot and keeps this content going. Number 5. Private healthcare shift. Another important factor behind the growing pressure on UK hospitals is the steady shift toward private healthcare services. While the NHS remains the backbone of the system, more patients are now exploring private options, both within the UK and sometimes even abroad, especially when speed and convenience become urgent priorities. The main reason is simple: time and access. In private healthcare, appointments, scans, and surgeries are often scheduled much faster compared to public systems. For someone dealing with pain, uncertainty, or worrying diagnosis, the ability to get answers quickly can feel life-changing. This is why many people are willing to pay extra or use insurance coverage to avoid long waiting lists. But this shift doesn't just affect patients, it also impacts the public system. As more people who can afford it move to private care, the NHS is left handling a higher proportion of complex and emergency cases. These are often more resource-intensive and require longer treatment times, which increases pressure on already stretched staff and facilities. There's also a psychological effect happening in society. When people hear stories of faster private treatment, it creates a perception that public healthcare is slower, even if the quality of care remains high. Over time, this perception influences decisions, especially for those who can stretch their budget or access private insurance. Healthcare experts describe this as a gradual system divide, where two parallel pathways emerge, one fast but expensive, the other accessible but heavily burdened. And as this gap widens, the balance of the entire healthcare ecosystem starts to shift. Number 6. Post-Brexit workforce changes. One of the most structural and long-lasting reasons behind the pressure on UK hospitals is the impact of post-Brexit workforce changes. While Brexit was primarily a political and economic shift, its effects have quietly reached deep into the healthcare system, reshaping how hospitals recruit and retain staff. Before Brexit, a significant number of healthcare workers in the UK came from European Union countries. These professionals filled essential roles across hospitals, care homes, and clinics, helping the system run more smoothly during high-demand periods. However, after changes in immigration rules and freedom of movement, the flow of incoming EU healthcare workers reduced significantly. This created a gap that was not immediately visible, but became more noticeable over time. Hospitals that once relied on a steady stream of European staff now faced increased difficulty in filling vacancies quickly. Even when positions are advertised, recruitment processes have become longer and more complex, slowing down the ability to respond to urgent staffing needs. At the same time, existing EU healthcare workers in the UK faced uncertainty about their future status, leading some to return home or move to other countries within Europe where regulations felt more stable. This added another layer of pressure to an already stretched system. The result is a system that now depends more heavily on domestic training and international recruitment from outside Europe, which takes time and resources to scale. While efforts are being made to adapt, the transition period has created noticeable gaps in staffing levels, especially in critical departments. Over time, these changes have reshaped the workforce landscape of UK healthcare in a way that continues to influence hospital capacity today. Do you think Brexit has had a bigger impact on healthcare than most people realize? Or is it just one part of a larger problem? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one carefully. And if you're finding this breakdown valuable, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it truly supports the effort we put into these videos. Number 7. Global remote work and migration freedom. Another modern factor quietly reshaping why people are leaving UK healthcare roles is the rise of global mobility and remote work opportunities. A decade ago, career paths in medicine were mostly fixed. You trained in one country and stayed there for most of your professional life. But today, that reality is changing fast. With digital communication tools, telemedicine platforms, and international licensing pathways becoming more flexible, healthcare professionals are no longer limited by geography. Many doctors, consultants, and specialists can now work remotely, collaborate internationally, or relocate with far fewer barriers than before. This freedom has completely changed how people think about their careers. At the same time, countries around the world are actively making it easier for skilled medical workers to move in. Streamlined visa processes, relocation support, and global recruitment drives mean that a nurse or doctor in the UK can receive offers from multiple countries within weeks. And when those offers include better pay, improved schedules, and more lifestyle balance, the decision becomes even harder to ignore. There's also a mindset shift happening among younger professionals. Many are prioritizing work-life balance, mental well-being, and travel freedom over traditional long-term job stability. Instead of staying in one system for decades, They are exploring international experience as part of their career growth. This combination of technology, opportunity, and changing values has created a truly global job market for healthcare workers. And in that market, countries are now competing not just for patients, but for the people who treat them. Number 8. Mental health strain on health workers. One of the most silent but powerful reasons behind people stepping away from UK healthcare roles is the growing mental health strain on frontline workers. Unlike physical exhaustion, this pressure is not always visible, but it builds up every single day behind hospital doors. Doctors, nurses, and support staff are constantly exposed to emotionally intense situations, emergencies, critical decisions, loss of patients, and families under stress. Over time, this emotional exposure creates what many studies describe as compassion fatigue, where even highly dedicated professionals begin to feel mentally drained and emotionally overwhelmed. The problem becomes worse when combined with long shifts, understaffing, and limited recovery time. Many healthcare workers report feeling like they are always switched on, with very little space to mentally reset between demanding days. This lack of recovery slowly affects sleep, focus, motivation, and overall. What makes this issue even more serious is that many professionals don't leave immediately. Instead, they struggle quietly for months or even years before finally deciding they can no longer continue in the same environment. By the time they step away, the exhaustion is often deep and long-term. Healthcare research has repeatedly highlighted that burnout and mental fatigue are among the leading reasons for staff turnover globally. And in the UK system, where demand is consistently high, this pressure becomes even more concentrated. Ultimately, this isn't about weakness, it's about human limits. Even the most skilled and passionate professionals can only operate under intense emotional pressure for so long before needing a change in environment. If someone you knew was emotionally exhausted but still working in healthcare, would you encourage them to stay or step away for their well-being? Share your honest thoughts below. We read every comment. And if you're finding value in this series, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it truly helps us keep creating in-depth content like this. Number 9. Cost of living pressure in the UK. Another major factor quietly pushing healthcare professionals away from staying long-term in the UK system is the rising cost of living pressure. While salaries in healthcare may appear stable on paper, the real-life experience of daily expenses tells a different story for many workers. In major cities especially, housing costs have increased significantly over the years. Rent, mortgages, transportation, and basic living expenses continue to rise, while wages have not always kept pace with inflation. For many doctors, nurses, and junior staff, this creates a feeling that despite working long and demanding hours, financial comfort is still difficult to achieve. This pressure becomes even more noticeable for younger professionals who are just starting their careers. After paying rent, bills, travel costs, and daily essentials, very little is often left for savings or personal growth. Over time, this can lead to frustration and the feeling that effort is not translating into stability. At the same time, other countries are becoming more attractive not just because of higher salaries, but because of better overall affordability. In some regions, healthcare workers can enjoy a higher standard of living with lower housing costs and more disposable income. This contrast becomes a powerful motivator for relocation decisions. The result is a growing imbalance. Even those who are committed to the UK healthcare system begin to question whether they can sustain a comfortable life while continuing in such a demanding profession. And for some, the answer leads them to explore opportunities elsewhere. Number 10. Patients seeking medical tourism options. One of the lesser discussed but increasingly important reasons behind the pressure on UK healthcare is the rise of medical tourism. This is when patients choose to travel abroad for treatment instead of waiting in their home country system. And in recent years, this trend has quietly grown. For many people, the decision is driven by three main factors: speed, cost, and access. In countries like India, Turkey, Thailand, and parts of Europe, patients often find faster appointment availability, shorter waiting times, and in some cases, significantly lower treatment costs. This becomes especially important for procedures that require urgent attention or long waiting lists in the UK. Imagine someone dealing with chronic pain or condition that affects daily life. If they are told they might have to wait months for treatment, the idea of traveling abroad for quicker care suddenly feels very practical rather than extreme. This emotional urgency plays a huge role in decision-making. Another factor is specialization. Some international hospitals have built strong reputations in specific treatments like dental surgery, cosmetic procedures, fertility care, and orthopedics. As global healthcare becomes more connected, patients are more aware of these options than ever before. However, this shift also reflects a deeper message. People are becoming more active participants in their healthcare decisions. Instead of waiting passively in long queues, they are exploring global alternatives that fit their timeline, budget, and expectations. While this doesn't replace the UK system, it does show how healthcare is no longer limited by geography. It has become a global choice. If you needed a major medical procedure and had the option to travel abroad for faster treatment, would you consider it or prefer to wait in your home system no matter how long it takes? Share your honest answer below. We read every comment carefully. And if you've watched till here, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it helps us keep producing deeply researched videos like this. When we connect all the dots, one thing becomes clear. This situation is not caused by a single problem, but by a chain reaction of multiple pressures happening at the same time. From burnout and low pay to global migration and rising living costs, each factor slowly adds weight to an already stretched healthcare system. UK hospitals are not emptying overnight. Instead, they are experiencing a gradual reshaping of their workforce and patient flow. Skilled professionals are moving across borders in search of better balance. Patients are exploring faster alternatives, and internal systems are struggling to keep up with growing demand. What makes this even more important is that healthcare is not just another industry. It is the backbone of public well-being. When doctors, nurses, and support staff feel overwhelmed, or when patients face long delays, the impact is felt across the entire society. It affects trust, efficiency, and emotional security. At the same time, this situation also highlights a global truth. Healthcare is no longer confined within national borders. It has become competitive, international, and highly dynamic. Countries are now actively competing not only for patients, but for the professionals who care for them. But here's the key takeaway. This is not just a story about decline. It is also a story about transformation. Systems evolve when pressure builds. Challenges like these often force reforms, innovation, and new approaches to healthcare delivery in the long run. So instead of seeing this as a simple crisis, it can also be seen as a turning point, one that may shape the future of healthcare in ways we are only beginning to understand.